The June Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC trailer happened over 4 months ago, but now it's less than 3 weeks until the Crown Tundra comes out. However, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I barely remember anything about the new Pokemon we're getting in the Crown Tundra. Like, the Regis do a thing, I think, and the Galarian regional birds are going to be pretty good, right? Well, now that we have some momentum coming off the recent Crown Tundra news, I want to do a video catching everyone up to speed. If you appreciate that, don't forget to leave a like, share this video with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. Also, I want to give a little bit more of my thoughts on Galarian Slowking. That's more near the end of the video because that's recent news and we're trying to catch up here. So, we have Galarian Moltres. Dark Flying. That is going to be a fancy boy, and it has the Berserk ability. Berserk just sounds like a crazy ability. You go below half and you get special attack. That sounds abusable. Unfortunately, Drampa just isn't really that good of a Pokemon, but what happens when you get this on legendary stats? And I think that's going to be the big thing to try to figure out with these birds. Are they going to have the exact same stats and just like a typing change and then some like moveset tweaks and some fun stuff like that? Or are they going to get a full overhaul? Because looking at this, 125 special attack, 90 speed, and then solid enough defenses. Like when your defenses and hit points are around like 70s, you're in one-shot territory. But I mean, 90, 90, 85, you're surviving something. Your Dynamax is still going to be really bulky, and 90 speed is effectively enough to take care of a lot of Pokemon or endure a hit from a sweeper and then one-shot them in return, especially if you're dealing like a +1 special attack or more. I think this Pokemon's just good regardless. Like, it either destroys tankier Pokemon, depending on how it can get set up, or if it has like a speed tweak, like maybe it's 100 speed, 90 attack, 125 special attack. I think the only thing that can happen with this Pokemon is that it gets more filthy with how the types and stuff and the stats end up breaking down. And I think that's also going to be true for the other legendary birds. Like, for the most part, they just run as is pretty well. So we actually get to see the new signature move. This dark type special move, Pokemon transforms its Wrath into a fire-like aura to attack, may also make the opposing Pokemon flinch. So I mean, if you just get speed into that, it's going to be nasty. It's probably still going to have Hurricane, so you Dynamax, Airstream, get the speed. Dark type, it's not like you have a fire type, so you're setting Sun and then ramping damage or anything like that. But I mean, you can get fast enough to where that matters, and then there's a chance to flinch on an already ridiculous special attack that might be proccing Berserk, and then with Berserk, there's always strategies to like multi-proc it. And if it gets Roost, that gets really dumb. So, this is a Pokemon that could get pretty fancy. Let's go and check out the Galarian Zapdos. Actually, I think I can just save myself some time and scroll down here and then just use the same page. Galarian Zapdos. Now, here's also where things get weird. It's not like they're going to be the same typing. Like, you look at that, it's like, oh, it's still going to be electric? Nah, we're getting a complete overhaul of the primary typing and then keeping flying. So, fighting flying Pokemon. Don't see that too often. Defiant is also a cool ability now. Well, Defiant's always been a good ability, but now we're just kind of seeing it get a bit more tech. And once again, when you're putting these things on legendary Pokemon, it's going to get wild. Now, I feel like we are going to see a change to Zapdos, maybe just a flip between the attack and special attack, because that's kind of how Defiant works. But also be kind of interesting to see what happens if we have a 125 special attack fighting Pokemon, and maybe it gets like Focus Blast, but it looks like since it's also called the Strong Legs Pokemon, it's going to be more of a brawler, and I don't know what that exactly means for the stats, but once again, keeping its speed around 100, probably going to be just fine, and then it can pull some shenanigans. Also, like, we have signature move stuff that just makes this Pokemon better. So, fighting type physical move, Pokemon overwhelms its target with lightning-like movement before delivering a kick, also lowers the Pokemon's target, or the target's defense stat. But what this also means is you have a really good Max Knuckle move. So I think you can just combo with these Pokemon really well. You use an Airstream, you use a Max Knuckle, maybe you Protect, just kind of like keep your hit points high, transition out of that, and now you have something that destroys bulky Pokemon, because you hit it, they survive, lowers their defense, it just seems to be like a guaranteed lower like we've seen with some moves, and stab, and extra stats, and then you crush them. And again, the legendary stats just make it good. Like, Zapdos, is a tanky boy that finds itself in the meta from time to time. And the funny thing is, it's not like the most tanky Pokemon. It has the same bulk as Moltres, but it also has the massive special attack backing it up. So even then, it's like it can base survive. Maybe there's like some really weird thing. Like if it has a high base speed, you go max hit points, max attack, Dynamax, and now it's absurd. And I think it's a weird showing on how regional variants can work. I feel like the other regional Pokemon, they need a stat buff. They need to gain additional stats instead of having a rework. But when you're reworking Legendary, base 570 stats, you have so much more room to play with. Signature move, type change, an ability, and then optimized stats. That's just a good Pokemon, regardless if it's a regional variant or not. So we're seeing a lot of that. Now let's go and check out the Galarian Articuno. I'm just going to drop down to the signature move so we can reverse engineer this Pokemon. Freezing Glare is a Psychic type special move that the Pokemon attacks by firing Psychic power from both its eyes. This move may also leave the target frozen. That's a weird effect, and I feel like it doesn't really do too much for the Psychic flying of Galarian Articuno. Now, Ice flying has an insane amount of weaknesses, and the weird thing about Articuno is that it is the bulkiest one of the three, but still, like an 85 speed is strangely workable in the meta, unless they just kind of transition, like unless they just kind of like shuffled around that much to where, you know, Zapdos becomes the bulky physical attacker, and then Galarian Articuno kind of becomes a sweeper in a weird way. Like you drop that speed into 100 and then give it more special attack. But also Psychic is kind of a weird change because it can be immune by Dark. So instead of just like having Ice Beam or something, that's a thing. And you don't really get to play around this as much where it's like, oh, you might get a flinch with Moltres and that wins you a game. Freeze chance is going to be really low unless they do something stupid like give this 20%. But I doubt that. It's just going to be a Psychic type move that freezes 10% on legendary stats. Competitive ability though. Competitive? Special Defiant. If you get hit with an Intimidate, it's a double on your stats instead of just a +1. So that procs, this Pokemon gets speed and it's probably one-shotting things. And you can kind of bait that out and you can make a lot of weird things work. Like if you just kind of sit this Pokemon in the side on doubles and your opponent uses a max move that lowers your stats, you're kind of filthy. And there's a lot of other like weird filthy things that can interact in the game like this. So Galarian Articuno could be interesting, but it seems like it just kind of is going to be the least used out of all of them. And Articuno's had some weird ups and downs. You see it for like Mind Reader Sheer Cold shenanigans. And if Galarian Articuno keeps that, it kind of has like a second threat weirdness going on with it. So we don't know how much ice it's going to retain with the Psychic flying. But also Articuno was like really good in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. But then like Zapdos and Moltres, you just kind of see them as like the like even though Articuno got the bulky stats, Zapdos and Moltres are used as like stally Pokemon more often because can't paralyze Zapdos, can't burn Moltres, max defense investment makes those legendary stats filthy, and Articuno has a billion weaknesses. Psychic flying still has a lot of weaknesses. Maybe it gets some other weird things because like, again, I'm just looking at these Pokemon like you Dynamax a legendary stat that has good abilities and it's going to work. You Dynamax into the opponent, you get that speed boost because you gotta do it, but stab flying is always awesome, and then you just do other things, and then you get really ridiculous. Not getting a 30% boost from your terrain is a pretty big feels bad, but if you're getting double special attack from competitive, might not really matter too much. However, if you are Dynamaxing, you're losing out on like the freeze chance. Maybe this Pokemon has good enough stats to where like you skill swap Serene Grace into it and it can get funny in doubles. You do lose the competitive, I mean like competitive procs on an Intimidate, and then you just switch into Serene Grace and then something funny happens every once in a while. Other than that, like, it's just going to be stats, and those stats could be useful, or maybe not. So now we get into, let's just get Galarian Slowking out of the way. Mostly big thing is, I saw a lot of people just kind of like hating on this Pokemon's design. I like its design. You know, it was kind of like weird when they gave us the blurred out one and with the reveal of the Crown Tundra and we didn't know what was going on. Like, it is a pretty trippy design, but when you bring all of the lore of this Pokemon together, which is something I kind of ignored in the last video, and that's also why I wanted to kind of talk about Galarian Slowking again, it makes the Pokemon seem a lot cooler. Like, I for some reason I didn't critique the design. I just looked at it, I was like, that's cool. I want to know what it does. But I mean, Curious Medicine, Hexpert Pokemon, if you watch the trailer, it's like reciting incantations. So it's actually like doing spooky woo-woo stuff, and it's causing effects inside the game. That's pretty cool. Hexpert that communicates through strange incantations. Galarian Slowking have been observed uttering incantations in order to communicate with each other. That's kinda neat. They also appear to chant mysterious spells when using moves in battle. Exactly what these Slowking are trying to say has yet to be fully understood. But then, like, yeah, there's also some strange medicine that's being generated by the Shelter that has now taken over the Slowking. Even though it's, like, kind of blind, it still kind of works, and it's psychic, so it has, like, telepathy shenanigans, but the poison is taken over. I like it. I think that is just fine, so I want to get that out of the way. Design, still pretty cool on this Pokemon. The theming could work pretty well. If it's just like Poison Psychic, Slowking, it'll work as a tank setup Pokemon, and then it might be pretty cool to use that way. Then we can get into Regieleki. This is a little less straightforward because we have the Transistor ability. Also, we have, like, I think it's called Dragon's Maw for the Regidrago. So we don't know what this does. Could be just something straightforward. Electric type moves boosted by 30%. Dragon type moves boosted by 30%. But once again, legendary stats. And I don't know if I like went in on that as much as I should have, because it's not like Regieleki and Regidrago are in their own spot. They're legendary Pokemon. And even though they look small, like they don't look that crazy or powerful. They look like mini legendary Pokemon in a kind of weird way. But if they're classified as legendaries, 580. Wait, did I say 570? Oh, I meant 580. Yeah, 580 on those stats. Wasn't Tapu Zek at 570 or something weird? That's what screwed up my legendary stat distributions. Okay, side note over. Let's go into this because, like, okay, Regieleki, Regidrago, 580. But what could they reasonably get away with if we're keeping in Regi themes? Because honestly, the Regi stats are kind of perfect. You know, it's not using speed, it's not using special attack, very, very little wasted stats on these Pokemon, and then everything else is kind of nutty. Now, we don't see these Pokemon used all the time, but they can be really good Pokemon to splash in on any team. Like a Registeel, it's just going to set up, and it's just going to not die. Regirock is just painful defensive tank. Regice, same thing, but special. So, like, these Pokemon just work. And that's kind of what scares me when we're looking at this. It's like, are they going to give it? What can they give? It's not like they're going to give it 200 speed. So I don't think they're going to have that much stat extremeness, but Regis tend to be pretty optimized. So I mean, we have Transistor boosting electric attacks or having like some kind of weird effect on electric attacks, and then like a 150 special attack on 100 speed. Is Game Freak going to be nutty like that? I don't know. Signature move, Thunder Cage. This electric type special move, Pokemon fires furious bolts of electricity from its lower half, trapping opponents directly below it in a cage of lightning. Thunder Cage doesn't deal damage, but also causes them to be trapped within an electrified cage, causing damage every turn for 4 to 5 turns, preventing them from fleeing or being swapped out. Now, these moves generally don't do a lot of damage. But what if it's a Thunderbolt that then does a 6th at the end of it? That's like a mini Max Wildfire. That's kind of scary, while also potentially having very high stats, or at least very optimized stats. This Pokemon could get ridiculous. Regidrago, Dragon Maw. We have signature move Dragon Energy. The more hit points the user has remaining, the higher the move's power. If this Pokemon has any speed, you just win. You go specs, you outspeed the opponent, and you do 1,000,000 damage, and that 1,000,000 damage might actually be boosted on top of Dragon's Maw. And that's why it's like weird. Like, you look at that doesn't look like a legendary Pokemon. That thing looks like it's packing maybe 500 BS. Nope. If that's got 580, it's kind of hard to throw away stats. Like, maybe we could look at a list of, like, legendary Pokemon and see which ones have the worst thrown away stats, and Regidrago is still going to be good. Here's Mesprit, probably the least used legendary Pokemon ever. And if you factor these stats onto something like a Regi that does the shenanigans we just talked about, that's viable. Like, the problem with Mesprit and the Lake Spirits is that they don't really have that great of ability as well as move interactions, and also it's not Generation 8, so we don't get to see the moveset. But it's like, you can't do anything cheeky with these Pokemon because they don't have modern, overtuned stuff in them. Regidrago, with all of that other fun stuff, kind of gets scary. Like, how do you kill a 105, 105, 80? that's kind of blasting you. Now the speed would balance it. Like if Regidrago is a slow Pokemon, actually 80 speed probably like the worst case scenario for it, honestly, because then you have to do something to get speed into it to make it threatening. You can still get like outsped on Scarf, out Tailwinded. 80 speed is too fast for Trick Room, but at the same time you can just save it as the ultimate tank busting Pokemon. 105 special attack Eruption, that's also getting like some kind of extra boost and potentially a Specs on top of that. 80 outspeed's a good amount in the way this weird meta is, so I mean this Pokemon can maybe just be such a wall breaker that it actually accelerates and speeds up the meta, as well as some of these other Pokemon. You know, if you just have to have Pokemon that are always faster than the regional birds, we might see a speed increase, and then that changes the entire dynamic of the game, and that's going to be pretty cool. Also, we got Garchomp coming back and some other weird stuff going on, so the game could change a lot, but like, this is worst case scenario, and it still feels pretty workable. Now, what if it's a 105 speed on Regidrago? And then like 110 special attack, like that's illegal, but they'll do it because you got legendary Pokemon. I mean, like, again, Regis are optimized. This is like, we take away 65 points here, and we put that anywhere else, and Regidrago is disgusting. Here's Azelf Regidrago. F that. I mean, maybe these Pokemon do have low defenses because they look like they don't have too much durability. I don't know. We could also go to Uxie. And even then, it's like, what if it's a tank Pokemon? Why does Uxie have a 95 speed? That's still, like, kind of absurd. So, yeah, I think, like I said, it's going to be based on, like, what the abilities do. But if you're introducing a new ability that directly calls out your typing, it's probably going to be some good stuff. And then the interactions it has, probably going to be good, as well as, like, Regis just being really, really silly when it comes to the stats. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I think that's it. I'm not talking about Melmetal because it's a horrible, stupid Pokemon that should have never existed, and Gigantamax is weird with Pokemon Go, and it's not necessarily Crown Tundra. Also, I think with the way the Pokemon Go transfer integration is going to work, we're not even going to see it until after the Crown Tundra, and we have no information on Calyrex, except that it's Celebi, and we all know how that goes. But if it fuses and becomes like a Psychic Ghost Pokemon or a Psychic Steel Pokemon, then it gets a bit more interesting, but we don't have that information, and I covered it a few days ago. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.